One more example of an idea that was thrown out 1,009 times. KFC.
Duh.
But like, because 1,009 people rejected the idea and thought it was stupid, but he believed in it enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, like, I could give like countless times that people, when I was developing apps for another company, countless people like, oh, you develop apps? Let me tell you about my app idea. I think every app, including the apps that I've developed, were stupid. Dumb apps. But these people believed in them. It doesn't make them bad ideas. So like I came up with this mantra, just a saying that I had, like, all app ideas are stupid except for the ones that make it.
Right. I think honestly most ideas, especially app ideas, I think most ideas are stupid. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is, this kind of goes on the fact of like having a mastermind group and being surrounded by the right kind of people to help you think more innovative, like to be more innovative in your thinking. You might have a really good idea, and it may not be great coming from you, but if you're surrounded by people who support you and are supporting the fact that you're being innovative and you're being ambitious and you're trying to make a difference in this world, I think that if you can surround yourself around positive people and positive reinforcement, you can come up with a pretty solid idea, even if it sounds like the dumbest thing in the world.
Right.
Like, interestingly enough, like when I was a lot younger and I used to come up with ideas, like I would always pitch them to people that I had respect for. Mm-hmm. And the only thing, what would they do? Instead of saying like, oh, that's not a bad idea, let's look into it, or let's see if that could be a good idea or a bad idea, if it's worth pursuing or not. They would just give me the reasons why it wouldn't work. And the funny thing is that I've also caught myself doing that for other people. And it partially has to do with the fact that people don't have patience for other people. But the truth of the matter is that I think a lot of pursuing ideas, because I remember hearing this quote, I've said it a bunch of times, probably on this podcast as well, that the richest place in the world is a graveyard, because in the graveyard are all the ideas that could have been something that all have died with the people who came up with those ideas. Wow. The truth of the matter is that in order for you to actively pursue your idea, before the passion and before the motivation comes, you need to find the right people to have that positive reinforcement, so that you are able to not back down, which is half the battle, if not like 75% of the battle. Because work is work. You see it in front of you, you can get it done. And that, based on how dedicated you are to doing the work and how much of a work ethic you have, will tell you how fast the work will get done. But the real battle is the positive reinforcement, staying motivated, because it's really tough shit. It's really hard, and you have to be surrounded by the right people. I think partially, like, I come up with good ideas all the time. Are they gonna work? Who knows? But the truth of the matter is, partially the reason why I haven't pursued most of the ideas I've come up with is because I'm not surrounded by people that enforce that positive atmosphere and say, like, let's actually look into this.
Right, and another step to that would probably be being open to these people's criticism or additions or refinement. Like, I wouldn't call criticism, like I just thought of this right now, criticism of an idea, I wouldn't call it criticism, I'd call it a refinement of your idea.
Okay, elaborate a little bit.
Meaning that these people, they care about you. They'll give you their unsolicited advice, go to school, go to college, whatever. But when you tell them an idea, they're probably, if they really care about you and they're not jealous, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Now you have a whole nother brain that's vibrating and thinking about this idea, so they have their whole nother perspective. So they're gonna say either this won't work, or what about this aspect of your idea that you didn't think about. So they're helping you refine it.
Like, I'll give you an example, actually.
Because there's factors that you didn't think about before that they did.
I'll give you an example which is very subtle and it's an interesting way, because I think most people have seen this movie. But in the movie The Social Network, which is about like the building of Facebook, when they go meet Sean Parker at that sushi restaurant, and he's like, the biggest contribution they said he made, but he was a positive reinforcer. He came up with an idea, he pursued the idea, ended up getting sued by a bunch of people, but he still pursued it at a young age, which takes balls. It's a very ballsy thing to do. And he's like, get rid of the, just make it Facebook. And like, the truth of the matter, the reason why I like that example at first when you hear it, you may not think that's a stupid example. I'll tell you why I like that example. Because you had the idea, you wanted to pursue the idea, and what he was doing was that he was outsourcing to find ways that he can innovate to be more sleek, more cool, to be more visionary in a way.
Yeah.
And that contribution probably made a huge deal as far as marketing was concerned towards them marketing their product. There's no such thing as a bad idea. I mean, like the beginning of Facebook, right? The beginning of Facebook were these two guys, the Winklevoss twins, who wanted to make a social network so that women could meet Harvard men. And then they took it to Mark Zuckerberg, and he's like, no, screw that.
Hashtag they were overly horny.
He's like, screw that.
Icelandic peoples.
And he was like, no, we're gonna build it amongst colleges, and then they started gaining popularity, and now it has access to everybody. Imagine if he hadn't have done that. No one would have heard of it, and it would have probably not worked because they weren't thinking big picture, they weren't being innovative, they weren't thinking outside the box, and they just were not cut out for building something like that.
Right. So that kind of like teeters on another aspect of the idea of all these ideas that people have. You think of them and they don't happen because a lot of people don't know how to take the idea to the next step, which is part of the reason why we're making this series, is because we want to show you how to take it to the next step, because we took this idea of Jerusalem Hub and we took it to the next step.
We didn't know what the hell we were doing either.
We didn't know what we were doing, but we knew we had an idea of how to move.
We had a name
forward.
We had a website domain,
and then we had an idea of how to move it forward.
Yeah. Another really cool example that I'll give you
ended up. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it also spread out into more aspects of Jerusalem Hub, which we are expanding.
Yes, we are. But another really cool example that I'll give you is that there's this show on Netflix called Lilyhammer, and I started watching it a little bit, and it's a comedy. It's kind of funny. But basically, long story short, it's about this mobster who testified against the mobs. And he got what's the word? He got like what do they do? He's in damn it, what's the word? Like the government, he testified and then the government relocated him. What's that called again?
Protective custody.
Protective custody. So he asked to go to Lillehammer, which is in Norway.
Right.
Okay, because I don't know, for some reason it's like a snow wasteland. It's like, why the hell would anyone want to go there? But he likes it there, so he went there. And the funny thing is that when we're talking about, and I know this seems very out of place, but I'm gonna bring it in right now. When we're talking about the idea and we're talking about positive reinforcement and surrounding yourself around the right people, he went to Norway. He went to this city, Lillehammer, this town, Lillehammer, with whatever he could carry, whatever he had in his pocket, money. And he's like, I'm going, I don't speak the language, I don't have anything, they barely gave me anything, and I'm gonna try to figure it out. And basically what it's about is he's setting up his operation that he's learned throughout his life from being a mobster, and he's doing it in a completely different country with a completely different culture. And the reason why I think it's so important to connect that with this is the fact that you see like the Winklevoss twins, for example, they were rich kids. And they're like, how do I become rich like my father? Well, their father paved the way for their ambition. And with him, with this mobster guy, he was paved with his livelihood and the way he grew up in the neighborhoods that he's from in New York. It paved the way for his ambition, and he's able to just make money like that, and blackmail and do the whole thing, and like just make everything work out perfectly, so that he starts making money and becomes a big shot in this nobody town. And I think the biggest thing about the idea, because we all have ideas, is just making sure that you go to the right people and get the right exposure, the right positive reinforcement. It's really just about that. I mean, there's nothing else that we can really discuss about the idea besides for I would say I only have 2 tips to give people when it comes to the idea. One is find the right people to expose it to. Don't get discouraged because one person's opinion doesn't mean shit. If you think that it's a good idea, then you think it's a good idea.
A lot,
right?
Through this
100%. And then my next tip would be, and if you have any other tips, you feel free to share them. But my next tip would be is just open up a Google Doc, write everything in detail the way that you understand it, even if it sounds stupid. That way you have it a concrete thought on the idea, and you can move on to the next step.
I would even say when you have that idea, just start writing with pen and paper. Like go completely old school.
Yeah, I mean,
Write
if
it
that
down.
works for you.
But it's very important. Like this is also like teetering on the next step. But I guess we could put it in the realm of an idea. Is for sure. You have that idea, write it down. You should have a list of all your ideas somewhere.